Welcome to Happy Eating, hosted by Black Amethyst Naturals, where we cook healthy food for the soul. Join us every week while we unpack some of your favorite recipes and some of my favorites, and we kind of flip them to make them plant-based. We're going to make them delicious and healthy all at the same time. On today's episode, we'll be unpacking sweet potatoes. We're going to take a deep dive into the wonderful world of sweet potatoes. I don't know if you're anything like me, but you know, all of those fond memories of Thanksgiving and Christmas and, you know, some of those cold weather holidays when you always have the baked sweet potatoes. And oh my goodness, y'all, my mother's sweet potato pie to die for, okay? So I have really fond memories and really good attachments to sweet potatoes. But of course, you know what people usually do when they cook soul food, they usually put a little bit too much fat, a little bit too much sugar, and that doesn't make it the healthiest thing. And it's okay if you're eating it once a year, but we want to be able to eat these foods whenever we want to. So we're going to talk today about how to switch up some of the ingredients so that you can have those same great sweet potatoes without all of the guilt. We're going to start with 1.5 pounds of potatoes, or 2 potatoes that are medium but on the larger side. Okay, so we're going to start off by peeling our potatoes. So I've got 2 different styles of potato peelers. They have a lot of different kinds. You can pick the one that works best for you. I like this one better. It is a very sharp one, and it actually takes off just a thin layer. So to me, I lose a lot less potato. And we want to make sure that when we're peeling our potato, we always peel away from our body. So we don't want to catch our finger because it'll take your skin off just like it's taking off the potato skin. And then when you get to the end, you can either cut the end off with a knife, or you can use your potato peeler and just keep on hacking away at it until you get rid of that nasty little butt on the end there. When we get done peeling all of our potatoes, we're going to go and rinse them off in some cold water. You can either run them under the sink, or you can put them in a bowl and let them soak for a little bit. Okay, this is what I call a wonky sweet potato. It's got kind of a couple of bends in it. So what I usually do to make cutting it easier is kind of cut it where you can make it the most square. So I chose to do 3 different cuts because it had 3 different bends. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to set our sweet potato on the flat side, and we're going to cut down the middle. Be careful when you're cutting them. They are kind of thick. You're going to flip them over so that you can get them as stable as possible. And right now we're just going to cut them into halves. Halves are a little bigger than I usually like to cut them for this particular recipe. So I'm going to cut them into quarters. And all you do is make another cut down the middle. And now that you have 4 pieces, you can go ahead and continue cutting them into 1/4 inch slices. I like to line them up. At this point, they're usually okay enough for you to slice through all of them at the same time and not have too much problem. So if you line them up, it'll go a little quicker. Okay, so this one is very, very thick. So when you're at the grocery store, I suggest you try to find some that are a little thinner so that they're easier to slice through, because you got to put some muscle behind this. So be careful and keep your fingers out of the way. So our first cut was to cut it in half so that we could get a flat surface to make sure our potato was as stable as possible. Then we're going to flip it on the flat surface and cut it in half again. Remember, we want to cut them into quarters, so that's going to be making 1 big potato into 4 sections. Okay, this is what I suggest you not do, and you're gonna see why. So after you've cut it one way, then you can flip it and try to cut it down the other way, but because the potato is not as stable as it was before, it's gonna start running on you, and it's really hard to cut through it. So we wanna make sure that we don't cut ourselves. So let's do this technique, which is a little easier. After we've cut the first one, then we wanna lay it down on a flat surface where it's stable, and cut it in half this way. See how much easier the knife goes to the potato? Then we're gonna slice them just like we did before. And we're also gonna take a moment to do some housekeeping before we get back into our fun facts. Sweet potatoes are one of those vegetables that will stain everything, and they are the dickens to get off once they get dried. So this is a perfect time to stop and wash your knife. Today we're going to start by talking about the nutritional makeup of sweet potatoes. So some of the great nutrients that are in sweet potatoes are things like fiber. We've got some magnesium, some copper, some niacin, some potassium, and it's a great source of calcium. Bet you didn't know that. Sweet potatoes are a great source of calcium. So if you happen to be plant-based like me and you don't do a whole lot of dairy, you can add in some sweet potatoes and get your calcium. It's also packed with some great vitamins. Vitamin A, vitamin B5 and 6, vitamin C, and vitamin E. And it's full of those great things we love to talk about, antioxidants. We talked about antioxidants a whole lot when we made our greens. And sweet potatoes also are a great source of all the goodies that make up antioxidants. And there's also a purple variation of sweet potatoes, and they have the highest amount of antioxidants. So if you're ever at the store, you know, some of those stores have some of those kind of niche little foods that you don't find anywhere else. If you're ever at the store and you find some purple sweet potatoes, take a chance, buy one and try it. I think you'll like it. Now that you've cut up all your potatoes, we're going to work on adding some yummy seasonings to our syrup. We're going to start with adding 2 cups of water to our bowl. And then next we're going to add 3 tablespoons of agave. I am choosy about agave. This is one of my favorite brands, so if you can find this one, grab this one. And it's a low glycemic sweetener, which means it won't raise your blood sugar like cane sugar. Make sure you get the blue agave because they have a lighter one and it doesn't taste the same, so make sure you get the dark one. Next, we're going to be adding 3 tablespoons of honey, also a low glycemic sweetener. Next, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. And then a tablespoon of coconut oil. And that's just enough to help it not stick, because it is going to reduce down and it's going to get sticky. Next, we're going to add a teaspoon of dark molasses. Molasses is actually made from cane sugar, but they boil it down. So when it gets done, it actually ends up with a lot more nutrients in it than regular sugar. And I was having a lot of fun right here, and afterwards I was like, I should have tried to write my name or a heart or something. And we're going to talk a little later about fiber and why it is okay for us to use a little bit of sugar in this recipe. Now we're going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of turmeric. Turmeric is a great spice to add to everything when you can. It has some really great anti-inflammatory properties that help with things like arthritis and joint pain, and also can help with things like IBS and Crohn's. When you can remember, add a pinch of black pepper to your turmeric so you can increase the bioactivity of the active ingredient in turmeric, which is curcumin. Next, we're going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Then 1/4 of a teaspoon of allspice. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And a couple of pinches of salt to bring out the flavor. And 1 pinch of cayenne pepper. And be careful if you put the cayenne pepper in your hand. Make sure you go wash your hand because we don't want to touch our face and then have burning eyes. Then we want to stir our sauce together and make sure we get out any clumps. Go ahead and pour the mixture over your sweet potatoes that you have in your skillet. Make sure you use your spatula to get all of the seasonings out of the bowl and any honey, agave, and molasses that is lingering in there. We need to get all of the yummies into the pan. All right, turn your heat all the way up to high. We want to bring it up to a boil and go ahead and give it a quick stir while we're waiting for that to boil. After you've stirred up the potatoes, you want to try to shuffle them around in the pan to make sure as many of them can get down in the liquid as possible. They're not all going to fit down in there, but we're going to take care of that when we stir. We're going to bring it to a boil for 5 minutes, making sure you continue to stir so nothing sticks. All right, more facts. So let's talk about fiber. Doesn't that sound exciting? So, where can you find fiber? You can find it in fruits, you can find it in vegetables, you can also find it in whole grains, and then legumes. And if you aren't familiar with what legumes are, those are just peanuts, beans, and peas. Why is fiber so great? Like, why is it important? Well, of course, you know, today we're going to talk about studies like we do every day. So the research shows that eating a diet high in fiber can help to reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes, and it can also help to reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. Eating a diet high in fiber and knowing that it can help to reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease is so major, because this country has some of the highest numbers of people that suffer from type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And those two diseases can really negatively impact your life, and they can actually end your life prematurely. So if we can eat some sweet potatoes and they're delicious, and it can help us to not run into type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease, honey, why not? Let's do it, okay? You game? I'm game. So another great thing about fiber is it can actually help to reduce your blood sugar levels from spiking. So if you've ever heard this before, it is very true that when you eat certain foods together, it can help to reduce the effects of one food group. So say for instance, we're eating our sweet potatoes, right? And our sweet potatoes are great, but they have a little bit of sugar in them. That's what they call sweet potatoes, right? They would just be called regular potatoes if they didn't. So they have a lot of sugar in them. But because they also have a lot of fiber in them, the fiber helps to keep the sugar from spiking your blood sugar, which is great if you have any issues with diabetes or anything like that. And just for normal people, it's great. You don't want your blood sugar going up and down. It's really not, it doesn't like to be played with like that. So if you can help regulate it by eating foods that are higher in fiber while you're eating some that have a little bit of higher sugar content, that's a great hack, okay? Life hack 101. If you're going to eat your sugar, make sure you eat your fiber at the same time, okay? Another great thing about fiber is it helps to reduce your cholesterol, and it also can help you to lose weight, or not even just lose weight, it can help you to maintain your weight. So that's a great thing too, because you guys know, and it's not just me, I think it happens for everybody. The older we get, the harder it is to keep that weight where you want it to be. So eating a diet rich in fiber, so adding things like sweet potatoes in regularly, is a great hack. Life hack 102. Okay, so if after 5 minutes your skillet looks like this, add a little bit of water. We want it to look like this. You can't tell me that's not beautiful. Turn it down to low and add a lid. If you don't have a lid that fits your skillet, it's okay if it hangs over just a little bit. Leave this on low for 15 minutes. And now more facts. So you've got two types of fiber. You have insoluble and you have soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is called soluble fiber because it actually dissolves in water. Your body does not break down any fiber, okay? So let's just clear that up for the record. When you're eating fiber, you're not eating it so that you can get fiber, like maybe a tree or something, so that you can build up some cellulose and make yourself strong and make some bark. So that is not why we eat fiber. We eat fiber for our gut health and also the other beneficial things we just talked about. So you're not looking to digest it. You're looking for it to help with other processes. So insoluble fiber is great because it actually helps, like we were just talking about, to reduce your insulin level. So it helps to slow the breakdown of the glucose. So then your insulin levels don't shoot up. Your body has time to process everything. And it dissolves in water, so when it gets in your body, it actually kind of makes like almost kind of like a little bit of a gel when it mixes with the water. So if you've ever taken some of the like over-the-counter Metamucil and things like that, the different kinds of fibers, sometimes when you mix them up, they like dissolve and then they're clear, and then sometimes you mix some of them up and they get a little thick. Okay, so you can see how, you know, it kind of soaks up the water and dissolves in the water. And then you have insoluble fiber, which doesn't dissolve at all. So that is like when you hear people talk about roughage and things like that, that's insoluble fiber, okay? And insoluble fiber is really great because this is not going to sound great. So I know some people are going to have an issue with it because sometimes we have just those things that trigger us. But insoluble fiber is great because it helps you to have bowel movements. The more, I'm trying to find the words to say not to gross y'all out. The more you have in there, we'll just leave it real general. The more you have in there, the more your body is going to want to process it out. And so insoluble fiber is great for that because we want to be doing that. You want to be having regular bowel movements. At the least, you should be having one a day if you're really eating a whole lot of plant materials. So things like the fruits and the vegetables and the legumes and whole wheat and all those things. If you're eating a whole lot of that, you'll notice that you'll have even more bowel movements than once a day. So if you're not at least having one once a day, then you probably need to add in some more fruits and veggies. It's just a super simple way for you to check on what's going on in your body. Am I moving today or not? You can find both types of fiber and, of course, things like fruits and vegetables. You can also find them in things like oats and whole wheat. And don't forget to add in things like nuts and seeds. So I know for me, I never really thought about it. Of course, I used to eat sunflower seeds back in the day because I think I was, you know, like an 80s into 90s baby, and I don't think any of us went without eating sunflower seeds because it was just a thing. But I never thought about like intentionally adding those things into my diet until I got older. And I mean with probably in the last like 3 or not even that long, maybe two years or so, have I really been very intentional about adding in things like sesame seeds, flaxseed, sunflower seeds, things like that. They have a lot of great properties in them. And we'll talk one day about seeds. Don't worry about it. We'll break down seeds so they can forever be broken too. But seeds are also a great thing to add in for fiber, and nuts. Okay? All right. Okay, so earlier when we were talking about how fiber doesn't digest in your body, you know what's crazy about fiber is it actually helps to promote your gut health. So I don't know if you guys know this about your gut, but you actually have more bacteria living in your gut than you do cells in your body. And that sounds crazy because how often are we made to believe that bacteria are the bad guy? We're made to believe that, but you have bacteria all over your skin. You have bacteria everywhere. And it's actually healthy for us because what we have done is over the millennia of years, we have grown to work with the bacteria. So the bacteria works with us and we work with them. So we're giving them something, they're giving us something. So even like your skin, for instance, you have a certain type of bacteria on your skin that allows your skin to still be healthy and allows the bacteria to be healthy, and everybody is happy. Now, if you wipe those things away, then you can get some kind of skin infections and you can get irritation and different things like that because the bacteria is there to prevent the bad bacteria. So we have good bacteria, which we call normal flora. It's there to prevent bad bacteria from colonizing. The bad bacteria can be a colonizer sometimes. We know how we feel about that. So we have those different bacteria on our skin, and we also have them in our gut. So when we're eating our fiber, our gut bacteria loves the fiber. It's very happy when it gets the fiber. And here we go again. Studies have shown that your gut bacteria can change depending upon what you eat. So there are other circumstances that happen. So things like stress, environmental pollutants, genetics. There's a whole lot of things that go into what your gut bacteria looks like. But to tell you a fun fact, it's so funny because I have read a whole book about this. So I won't go down the rabbit hole with you guys on gut health. But to tell you a fun fact, so identical twins, they come out, they have the exact same DNA because they split from the same egg and sperm combination. So they have the same DNA. So if you did a genetic test, they would look identical, right? That's why we call them identical twins. Well, gut bacteria is so specific that if you tested their gut bacteria, you could tell the difference between the two of them. You could tell the difference between yourself at age 20 and age 25, depending upon what you eat with your gut bacteria. So it is very fluid and it's very sensitive to what inputs it gets, right? So when we're talking about fiber in the different studies, they have shown that gut bacteria, the ones that are supposed to be there, remember we were talking about the normal flora, the ones that are there, that we like being there, they like being there, and they help us to keep away from all of the bad bacteria that could come. The ones that are supposed to be there really like a diet high in fiber. So you guys know I don't get on here and I always try not to be preachy, but this is a plant-based cooking show. So if there isn't any other reason besides that to know that like adding in more vegetables is kind of a thing, adding in more fruits is kind of a thing, you know, taking care of your gut bacteria is really important. Your gut bacteria is actually responsible for your production of vitamin K and vitamin B. So, you know, it does some things that our bodies are not even capable of doing, which is why I said we have a good relationship with the bacteria and it has a good relationship with us. And it also produces different amino acids that our bodies aren't able to produce. So there's a whole lot of good jazz going on down there in your gut bacteria. So we need to make sure we take care of it, because if we don't, then we can run into diseases like ulcerative colitis. So that's just one example. And it's kind of like you have some different diseases that happen in your intestinal tract that are inflammatory, and they're not good. If you've heard about anybody talking about ulcerative colitis or things like Crohn's disease, it can really be very life-changing, and it can impact you in a not so good way, because just like we were talking about how your different gut bacteria is responsible for making for making vitamin K and for making some of your vitamin B, it's also there to, like we said, help to keep away all of the bad bacteria, and it's also there to make sure that our intestinal lining is very healthy. And that is where we still absorb some of our nutrients and things of that nature when our food is going through the process of digestion. We need to absorb some things down there as well. So we need to make sure that the lining of our intestines is very healthy, and that healthy gut bacteria does that. So then when you run into things like ulcerative colitis, and like I said, things like Crohn's disease, any of those like intestinal diseases, it's such a major issue when you have a disease happening and then also you're not eating the right foods to help your gut bacteria keep your gut healthy. So it just compounds the issue. It makes everything worse. And you already know, if you're going through any of those type of intestinal diseases, you don't want to make anything worse, because it is already a pain in the butt, literally. So if you are having any of those type of issues, like we were talking about earlier, constipation, if you're having anything, or if you know anybody that has to deal with any of those diseases like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis or irritable bowel or any of those things, I'm sorry if this is making you guys cringe, because all of those names are just terrible. But if you know anybody that's suffering from any of those things, tell them about the fiber. Tell them like, hey, how much fiber are you eating? I'm sure their doctor has told them that already. But just keep them encouraged and tell them, you know, there are some fun foods that you can eat that have fiber. It's not like you just have to take Metamucil. You can eat some fun things that have fiber in them too. Okay? All right. Okay, so another great thing that is in sweet potatoes is vitamin A, which is also called beta-carotene and sometimes retinol. So if you've heard of any of those things, you've probably heard of them in regards to like your eye health or your skin. But it's actually, fun fact, what makes the sweet potato orange, what makes carrots orange. So it's like that orangey kind of reddish a little bit color, and that's actually where that comes from, is the beta carotene. And beta carotene is actually what we call a provitamin. So our bodies use beta carotene to actually make vitamin A. So we need it because we need vitamin A, and so it's all working out. Just like we were talking about earlier, our gut bacteria working with us. Well, we have other things. The body is amazing. I'm sorry, I'm going on a little tangent. The body is amazing, and I love to talk about it, and that's why I get on here and get so excited about telling you guys all these fun facts about things like sweet potatoes, because It's just so amazing to me how we do something as simple as eating, and then all of these like things take over. We don't even have to think about it. We just are living and glowing in our best life, and meanwhile our body is using sweet potatoes to make vitamin A, to make sure that our skin and our organs and our eyes are healthy. It's just crazy. But vitamin A is, like we said, very big, and like I said, if you've heard about it before, it's probably because we're talking about like eye health, or just generically talking about vitamins. But usually they say, like, when you're talking about vitamin A, that's the main thing they talk about, because if you don't get enough vitamin A, you won't be able to see. Like, you'll have problems with your vision, and usually it could be restored if you catch it quick enough and you just add it back in the beta carotene so that your body can make the vitamin A. But if you don't, then you can actually go blind from having a vitamin A deficiency. Vitamin A is also very essential for your immune health, and guess what? Antioxidants. You guys know these are my favorite things. We've been talking about antioxidants for the last 2 weeks, but we won't get into it as in depth as we did last week. But antioxidants are great. They're essential for our bodies. They help to fight off a lot of different disease processes. And so it is also great that now we know that one of our other favorite foods for our soul food of sweet potatoes is also great with antioxidants. Okay, I'm over it. Okay, so let's talk about our glycemic index. So sweet potatoes, like we talked about earlier, do have sugar in them. So technically they are not low on the glycemic index, but like we also talked about the fiber, because they have a lot of fiber, it helps to, you know, do a slow increase of your glucose and breaking down so that your insulin has time to regulate it. So don't be too worried if you're eating sweet potatoes, because you're eating a lot of fiber. And if you want to add to the fiber, you can eat the skin on the sweet potato as well. I know usually when we're cutting them up, we don't do that, but we'll talk about some different recipes that you can actually keep the skin on. And if you just want to bake it like a regular potato and, you know, put some of the goodies inside of there, you can also do that and eat the skin to help to add to the fiber. Okay? All right, so our sweet potatoes we cooked today, if you want to talk about serving size, it's about half of that sweet potato. It's what they say is about a medium-sized sweet potato, so that's something like 1/4 of a pound. If you're at the store, you can actually weigh it. But the ones we're having today, maybe a little bit more than half of it. The ones we have today are kind of like on the large side of medium. They're not big, because you guys know the bigger they get, the harder they are to cut. But if you want to get one about similar to that size or a little smaller, I'm not going to tell you that you can't eat too much sweet potato. I'm not going to tell you that, but you can't eat too much sweet potato. Okay, it'll be our secret. Don't tell nobody I said it, okay? Okay, so be careful. This is going to be hot. Make sure when you're opening the lid like this that you open it away from yourself to let the steam out so it doesn't burn you. And then also make sure that you're keeping the edge of the lid over the skillet so that any extra water can just drip right back into the skillet. Okay, we should still have a good amount of juice down in our skillet. That's why we covered it with the lid. And we want to check to see if our potatoes are done. So get some of the bigger pieces, because those are going to cook slower. And just take your spatula and try to slice them in half. If it goes right through, then we're good to go. If your potatoes are still a little hard, just put them back on the skillet on low, covered for 5 minutes, and then check them again. Once all of your potatoes are nice and soft, we're going to turn our heat back up to high so we can reduce down our sauce. Get it bubbling and keep it stirring so nothing sticks. We're looking for a clean skillet. So you see how you use your spatula and push the liquid away? If the skillet stays clean, then we're almost ready. This is what we're looking for. See those strings that are forming and how the liquid is sticking to the potatoes? That's what we want to see. If it's getting away from you and cooking too fast, just turn down the heat a little bit. But this is the end result. Look how beautiful those are. Yummy. Feel free to insert happy dance here. Okay, so you know I don't let you leave without telling you some other ways that you can incorporate sweet potatoes into your recipe vocabulary. Okay, all right, you ready? So, I know you guys know about sweet potato fries. That is a whole thing now. I am actually not a fan of everybody's sweet potato fries. My mother, on the other hand, loves sweet potato fries. She don't care whose sweet potato fries they are, she loves them. I tend to like things that are sweet. If they're sweet, I need them to be like, kind of like teriyaki sauce. So I need like a nice sweet, tangy, salty. I need like it to marry together. And sometimes, honey, when they do their sweet potato fries, they be tasting like Candied sweet potato fries. And I don't want that. I don't want that. But if sweet potato fries are your junk, go for it, baby. And if you have never tried them before, try them, because you might actually like them. Don't let me telling you that I like them a certain type of way make you not try them, okay? I had to disclaimer that because I just realized I probably talked you out of trying. Okay, anyway, don't mind me. So another way, of course, to eat sweet potatoes is baked. We talked about this earlier. You can get your sweet potato just like a regular potato, and you can bake it. You can put it in the oven. I'm not a big fan of the microwave, and we'll talk about that on one episode. But if you want to microwave it, or if you want to boil it in the skin in the pot and then, you know, do it like that, you can. So that's another easy way to do it. You can also do smashed sweet potatoes. So just like you would do mashed potatoes and do smashed sweet potatoes. I know a lot of people like to do that and do the casserole and do the marshmallows on top. Y'all live y'all best life. I'm not about to eat them. I'm not about to eat that. Here I am talking you out of stuff again. I don't like the marshmallows on top. You know, y'all know, if you go to your family's traditional get-togethers, and then you go to somebody else's family and they don't cook the foods the way that you used to them being cooked at your family, you know, you feel the type of way. We don't usually do mashed sweet potato casserole with the marshmallows on top. Have we had somebody bring it to the function? Yes. Did we eat it? Yes. Did we talk about you? Maybe. It depends on who it was. I might have, because I'd be like, why did we bring this? But I'm going to scoop around the marshmallows and get some of the mash and be upset that they mashed. I'm sorry to tell y'all too much of my business. But anyway, so that's another great way you can incorporate sweet potatoes into your recipe vocabulary. You can also sub out some things like bread and pancake, waffle, cupcakes, muffins, all the baked goods. You can add sweet potatoes to them. So if you guys had the opportunity, I am about to bring up, I'm sorry, trigger warning. If you had the opportunity to taste our agave waffle sandwich, it has sweet potatoes in it. Excuse me, my hair is all on my face. It has sweet potatoes in it. It was delicioso. Sweet potatoes were in the waffle. It was delicioso, y'all. I'm having a moment. I might have to go make myself one. Oh, anyway, so we added it into the waffle mix, and it actually it was a little lighter than like a normal waffle. It was a little sweeter. We added agave. We added agave to our waffles today. I mean, our waffles. We added agave to our sweet potatoes today. So you know, me, agave, and sweet potatoes, we go together. But you can sub out different things. Just Google a recipe. Banana, you like banana nut bread? Sweet potato bread. Sweet potato muffins, sweet potato waffles. Just Google it. You'll find a recipe. Some of them tend to kind of go in the direction of like gluten-free, because that's usually why people get to subbing out those things. But I'll tell you to be careful with gluten-free recipes, because usually the texture can be a little different than what you're used to. So just a FYI heads up, if you find a recipe and it's saying like, oh, it's trying to be gluten-free and that's why they're subbing out, just be aware that it might be a little different than what you think it's gonna be, okay? And one other great thing to add in for sweet potato recipes is soups and chili. So just like you would add some chopped up regular white potatoes to a soup, you can add in sweet potatoes. Usually when you're boiling them, whatever flavor you put into it is kind of what the sweet potato is going to take on. So if you've ever eaten a sweet potato without anything on it, it has a little bit of a sweetness to it, but it's not very present. Like, it's not like overwhelmingly sweet. So if you make something like a chili, or if you add it to a soup that is more on the salty side, you probably won't really notice a huge difference with adding in the sweet potatoes instead of the regular potatoes, and you can actually add in both. And then in addition to that, you can also do curry sweet potatoes. So those are two really good flavors that go together. So any curry recipe you have, you know, you could chop up some sweet potatoes and make little cubes and add them into the recipe, and or you can make like a little sauce. And I told you guys that we were going to have a whole episode on sauces, and I am not going to forget, because every week I'm going to get on here and tell you about how you can add one of these vegetables or fruits or something to a sauce, okay? So sauce is just, you know, sauce is saucy. Okay, I'm done. I digress. I'm done. All right, and so one last fun fact about sweet potatoes. I know that over here on this side of the pond, we usually, some people interchange, we don't always, but some people interchange the word sweet potato for yams. And they are not the same thing. They are both root vegetables, but they are not the same thing. So when you're talking about a yam, if you've ever had something like a yucca, it's not really the same as a plantain. It's really closer to a yucca, but it is a little bit more fibrous. The outside of it actually looks like it has bark on it. It kind of looks like coconut, like a coconut shell. It's kind of that like thin stripe, and it's got a little bit of hair on it. It's not real hair, but it is not the same thing as a sweet potato. So you can keep on living your best life if you like to call sweet potatoes yams, because over here in this country you have to go to like one of the international markets to get a yam. So most people think you're talking about sweet potatoes if you say yam anyway, unless they're from another country. But if you want to be out here, you know, repping for the sweet potatoes properly, you need to be calling them sweet potatoes, because yams and sweet potatoes are not the same thing. Okay? All right. All right, my loves. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that you have a good time eating those sweet potatoes, honey, because I had a good time eating them myself. And I hope you join us back next week as we continue to unpack all of the wonderful world of foods and different dishes, all of my favorites, and I hope some of your favorites. And if they aren't already your favorites, I hope they can be some of your new favorites. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Black Amethyst Naturals. Don't forget to visit our website, blackamethystnaturals.com, to stay up on all of the things Black Amethyst Naturals. And then don't forget to follow us on social media. While you're on our YouTube, make sure you check out the TRIBEvibe, our meditation series, where we unpack all things self-care and wellness. And if you had a good time with this video, make sure you like it, and then also make sure you share it and, you know, send it to some of your peoples so that they can try it too. This has been Happy Eating, where we don't need any music to dance, just good food. I love you. Bye.